Is the Garden of Eden actually in the North Pole? In the book of Genesis, chapter 2, verse 10, it says a river watering the garden flowed from Eden. From there, it was separated into four head waters, and those four head waters are Pishon, Gihon, Tigris, and Euphrates. Fast forward to today, we only know the location of two of these rivers, and logically speaking, the Garden of Eden should exist around that area, right? But what if, when the flood of Noah happened, everything changed? What if the landmarks were shifted, and what we identified are actually in completely different areas? Well, the 15th and 16th century Mercator maps of the North Pole showed a land with four specific headwaters emerging from it, bearing geographic similarities to what was recorded in the Bible. However, in subsequent maps, this piece of land was completely removed and never spoken about again. So, could someone actually be hiding the Garden of Eden from us?
And a river went out of Eden to water the garden, and from thence it was parted, and became four heads. The name of the first is Pison, that it is which compasseth the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold. The land of gold, Havilah or Havilah. I'll let you decide that. Now, if you look at the map, you see the Valley of Eden, the whole land of Havilah, and you also see Tigris up above the Jordan River. Seems like the area of the Eden. Now this where you have to pay attention. Look at the Eden up top. If you look under the D, you will see a lightly highlighted river going to the Tigris. Okay? Pay attention. Right under the D. Now, let's go to a later map. You don't see Garden of Eden up there no more. But you see the river is highlighted. And it's going all the way to the Tigris, along with three other rivers. Interesting. As you can see, where Garden of Eden was once located is now say Asbargan. Very interesting. Azar means fire, and Vagans, which means protector. Fire protector. Maybe that's something to look into. I read into this book called Paradise Found, the Cradle of the Human Race at the North Pole. In the table of continents, you see right in the first part, they have the location of Eden. That's the state of the question.
The Garden of Eden, east and west, is not over 10 miles wide, paralleling the river from Chattahoochee down to Bristol. But you're right in the center of it here at Torrey State Park, north and south, between Chattahoochee and Bristol.
Well, now, according to the Bible, the Garden of Eden must have trees pleasant to the sight, and it must have gold and onyx stone and a river of four heads. Is this one of the rivers?
This is the Pison River, which is mentioned in the second chapter of Genesis, when it says, a river went out of Eden to water the garden and parted and became into four heads. The tree life from Chattahoochee to Bristol is the largest of any other area in the world. The Bible names 28 trees. The best authority on earth have identified 27 of them here, and many more, including the gopherwood tree. The Bible names those four river heads as the Pison, the Gihon or Gihon, the Hiddekel, and the Euphrates. The first one was the Pison. The Bible says that is it that compasseth the land of Havilah, which was North Florida before the flood, where there is gold. And the gold of that land is G-O-O-D. The Bible used that adjective to describe the North Florida gold to further tie down the exact location of the Garden of Eden. The next verse says there's also bdellium there, which is nothing but rosin out of pine trees that God instructed Noah to pitch the ark out of, and onyx stone, which is marble. And North Georgia, right where this great river has its source, is one of the largest marble areas in the world. The Tate Marble Quarry and Company there at Tate, Georgia, is one of the largest. So the natural monuments definitely mentioned and described in the Bible as being related to the Garden of Eden are here, and they are not anywhere else on this earth. Noah built the ark out of wood not very far from where you and I are sitting here at Torrey State Park. It was loaded, and then it floated 5 months and landed on Mount Ararat, where we know definitely that it's now embedded in the ice.
Now there are four rivers that are necessary for the Garden of Eden. What are the four rivers here?
A river went out of Eden to water the garden, says the 2nd chapter of Genesis, and it parted and became into four heads. The Pison, the Gihon, the Hiddekel, and the Euphrates. That is the only four-head river system on this earth. When the idea or the notion or the belief that the Garden of Eden was somewhere else or over in Europe or in Africa or someplace over there, the Western Hemisphere was unknown. They did not know that the continent existed west of the Atlantic Ocean. Therefore, they couldn't search this continent along with the others to find the river of four heads and these other great natural monuments which the Bible said was related to the Garden of Eden. It came my pleasure and my responsibility and my duty to search the North American continent and definitely point out the same bare natural monuments that the Bible relates to.
Well, Mr. Callaway, everyone knows the story about the Garden of Eden and the Tree of Knowledge. Do you know where the Tree of Knowledge existed in this garden, and was it an apple tree?
The word apple, or the plural apple, is not even mentioned in the book of Genesis. That's been added on by fiction and superstition. The Bible mentions apple or apple 3 times, but it's speaking of the apple of the eye because it's in the shape of some apples, you know. The tree of knowledge of good and evil is a spiritual tree. God told Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden in the 16th verse of the 2nd chapter of Genesis, of every tree of the garden, of the fruit of every tree of the garden, thou mayest freely eat. There was not any forbidden fruit in the garden. But he told them in another verse, there's one in here, that if you eat that, you shall die. And that's the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Mother Eve thought a good long time before she made up a decision whether or not to eat the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And she decided that she'd rather live the 70 years that God had promised them by knowing good from evil and then die, rather than live on a parity with a totally insane person or an animal forever in paradise and never know right from wrong.